the fear of being rejected,
Yeah.
the fear of you potentially telling me
You're not interested.
You're not interested.
Or asking about your brother.
yeah, would have ripped me off.
So basically, it's like if I don't call,
I don't have to hear it.
then I don't have to hear it and I don't have to feel it.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, that was a wow moment for me, to be honest. Like hearing you go a bit deeper into to how you felt, kind of mentally, emotionally. Gosh, it was quite a lot.
I want to be honest because I know that many men are probably in these scenarios. So we're dating. I'm feeling feelings for you,
Yeah.
but I'm in situationships as well.
You know, I found out this later.
Yeah.
This guy.
Obviously before we got married. But so my head's all over the place if the truth be known.
I met you at what I now understand. I met you after you had ended quite a long, well, kind of almost ended a long relationship. So I know that there was stuff going on, and I remember it being kind of like, oh, I'm the new kid, I'm the new woman on the block.
It's hard, because you're confused, you're lost. You're in a situation where like you're in between love and lust, and I'm confused. If the truth of the matter is, so I'm doing my stuff. I've got situationships that are trying to close. Some of them are not properly closed. That's why I'm trying to encourage just adults, young people, like try and just build with one person, because I ended up doing something that was one of the most painfulest days of my life. Is when I had to, with the person that I was with before, had to kind of tell them that you're pregnant and I'm not staying, and it's really, really over. And I just remember the devastation of that impact, and it kind of reminded me of seeing stuff that my mom had gone through, and the tears that I've seen my mom cry with my dad and stuff like that. And I kind of like became my my worst nightmare.
Yeah, what you said you didn't want to ever be.
Yeah, what I didn't want to become. So it was hard times, man. And I think if people can avoid, just like try and live, it's all nice and it sounds all airy-fairy now, and I'm very conscious of it. Like I can say, live honesty, tell the truth,
live with integrity. Then
live with integrity. But the truth of the matter is, back then, even though I'm definitely catching feelings for you, I wasn't living honest and I wasn't living in integrity. I'm trying to say, because still trying to unlearn the mindset of like, actually to be a man was to have multiple partners and to have them all on the go.
Yeah.
So it was kind of crazy to me when the whole transition started to happen. I started to read a book called Sexual Integrity.
Yeah.
And it was talking about soul ties. And I remember reading this book, and it gave me this deep revelation that actually when we have multiple sex partners, we actually almost have multiple souls attached to us, and we can feel tied to people. So even though I was feeling something for you, the depth of it didn't happen until I kind of like broke former soul ties with past relationships, and I kind of like was asking God, like separate me from all past relationships. And I remember the first time after I said this prayer with all my heart, I remember we was in Star City, New Orleans, and I remember looking at you across the table, and it just dawned on me, it's like, wow, you're my wife. And it was the same day I had prayed this prayer of God, like break these soul ties in my life. And that's why I would say to people that like, I can't have this conversation about you without bringing faith, spirituality, that kind of concept into it, because there are certain, what you could say, addictions, sexual addictions or whatever, that was muddying my mind, muddying my waters. And until I kind of addressed that area of my life, I couldn't really see you in all your beauty and you can kind of say glory of who you was for my life. It was mad. It's almost like my eyes were blinded.
In reflection for me, though, it was quite turbulent. Like dating was turbulent. It was like, and it was fast paced. Like compared to my life of like not going anywhere on a Saturday, staying home, washing, putting on the soup, clean the house, washing and doing stuff like that. I didn't really go out and do anything really socially. So when we started to date, it was like, gosh, I'm actually now seeing the world in a way. I'm going out, I'm going to different places, I'm meeting different people, I'm meeting your family. I remember introducing me to your mom, and like I remember meeting like your brothers and your sister and understanding what had happened in your life. Like there's so much different elements of your life.
I'm losing my sister.
That was just so, for me, so foreign to the world that I lived in, that actually it was kind of like, one, exciting, two, intriguing, really like, oh my God. And I was just interested. I wanted to know more about you. I wanted to understand it. But then I realized that there was a complexity to I mean, I can articulate it all now because, you know, we're grown-ups now. You can got hindsight. Complexity. But there was a lot of complexities and there was loads of layers. Like, I realized that.
Like I'm mad, but like
you was because you had so.
Don't you think I was like a Jekyll and Hyde as well? Because I could be sweet as pie with you, but like I remember a lot I should say, not enough, but a lot of road rage incidents where someone cut me off and I'm flying out the car ready to fight people. Like,
and driving down the pavement.
Aggression.
Aggression.
So you must be thinking, what is wrong?
And I used to say to you, I remember, and I still say to you now, like, why do you respond like that? Just leave it. I'd say just leave it. No, I can't leave it. He's taking me for this or he's taking me for that. And you'd be I used to sit there and think, okay, well, what's going to happen then? How far do you want this to go? But then I think you would look, it's almost like you'd look back and see me there and think, actually, I'm not going to go that far down the road.
It's just how I was grown. You got to understand, we're two cultures coming together. So what's mad, and it's important for people to understand this, is that we're both coming from Jamaican heritage. Grandparents from Jamaica.
Yeah.
But I grew up in inner city, Birmingham. You grew up suburbs, Birmingham. Two different experiences. I remember when you telling me things like, you've been on holiday 3 times a year. And I was like, what? Like abroad? Like I come up on like benefits and council house. Like if you it's over 2 roles in the world. You either be a victim or you kind of be the person that's like in control. Does that make sense?
Perpetrator.
Like it's my. I know it sounds crazy, but you're either getting bullied and buoyed up, or you're the bully, or you know what I'm saying, or you're in between. It was a very cold environment, but I didn't realize the word. Like for me, it's like my childhood. I'll never like turn my back on it, but it's kind of like very traumatic environments, man.
Yeah.
There's like lots of crime, there's violence happening, and you gotta be strong. Is that making sense? So when I met, like I can remember you was like my respite.
And it's funny because you was like the excitement.
Yeah, but you
it's
was
mad,
like,
isn't it? I'm running today. I'm running into fire.
I'm coming from. Listen, I'm active. I'm on road. There's things happening. There's drama happening. There's people getting. There's just it's chaotic. So when I could escape and be with you, go on a date, go to places like Mailbox that I've never gone to before. I remember you took me on my first holiday and we went to Barcelona, or when I went to your house in Sutton. To go on that long, for me, was a long drive.
Yeah. Exactly. It's not this, it wasn't the same way. So
I could go out of, like, for me, it's like going out of town, but it's not out of town. It's like I'm coming off the ends.
Yeah, you're out in a completely different environment.
Chill.
Different people, different conversations.
I'm getting on with your mom.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's just a nice environment.
Yeah.
But what I didn't really understand was the conversation that people probably whispering to you, like, be careful of my man.
Definitely got warned off, got told like he will ruin my life. You will ruin my life.
Yeah. And I'm not surprised because I was living that life.
But at the same time, and I think it's important for context and for people to understand that you was living that life and I wasn't living it with you. Yeah, so 100%. I didn't see.
I'd hid it from you. I didn't do nothing in front of you.
I would see the phone calls. I'd hear the phone calls and see you go off, and that's it.
go back to that respite thing.
Safety.
You are a different world to the world that I'm a part of. I don't want to bring you into that world. So for me, you have to understand, because there's even things like back then, I'd like swap out my chip in my phone. So if the phone ringing for like things on the road, I was able to like be around you and not have my phone ring.
Yeah,
so
true.
when I went to Sutton and I was around you, I'm just in peace. I'm like, it's just peace and tranquility. But then, and I can like drop my mask.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I can have real conversations about life.
Mm.
But as soon as I come out of Sutton and I'm starting to go into like Newtown, Aston, Handsworth and different areas, it's Skipper, you know what I'm saying? Screw face, woof, chair back, tinted out ride. We, you know what I'm saying? We're doing what we're doing.
So I guess for us, our dating world was upside down, round and round, here, there, and everywhere, going on dates. And I guess if you think about today's life and what we're seeing with young people and families, and I guess the patterns of behavior that we might come across, I can see how the lack of self-confidence and maybe self-worth leads to some of the decisions that some of our young people make. And how do I mean, people say to me, how did you navigate your relationship with roadman kind of thing? But to me, you wasn't a roadman. Like, to me, you was Nathan. I never called you Skipper. I always thought it was a bit weird that you had another name, and I only realized that people had nicknames when I was around you, because all your friends did. Where I was from, everybody was by their first name, and that was it, you know. And it was just a completely separate world. Our worlds totally did collide, but we had so much, I guess, so much in common, in the sense that we both probably wanted a bit of escape from what we were in. Like, I wanted a bit of excitement as an escape from what's not going on around me.
And that's why girls, let's just keep it real.
That's why girls get into stuff.
Yeah, and this is things I've heard, you know, like, why do girls kind of go for that gangster or go for that rude boy? Because obviously it's excitement. It's like there's an adrenaline that's happening.
I'm not I'm not glamorizing
like,
that though.
Like, let's look at the scenario that happened. You're working, and I'm not glorifying this, but just for context, you're working, you come back from work, you're telling me that the chef has given you a headache, you've had a bad shift.
Oh yeah, Lord, we're telling this story, Nathan.
And you're telling because I've hid that side to me.
I don't know you.
You're just telling me this story about how
you're so
the chef
sincerely listening to me,
disrespected you, and I'm like in my head like, what, man, disrespecting my girl? I said, okay, cool. And then like, I think the next day I've come down and I've rocked up the geezer. I've come just by myself and just mashed him up.
I shouldn't laugh. I am laughing.
No, I've mashed him up.
But
and you're
that
not
was chaos for me, you know, man. Like, let me explain it. You came in to this restaurant, so the night before, you kindly come and said, "I'm going to pick you up."
If the person ever watches this, I would like to say sorry. By the way,
I think I've had a conversation many years ago now, but you did. He gave me a nightmare. It was a nightmare shift. Every order was wrong. People are complaining, blah, blah, blah. I'm listening. I'm talking to you. You picked me up. You kindly picked me up from work. I said, "You're going to bring me home?" And you've gone for a drive and you said, I'm gonna take you. What's happened, babes? Babes. That was the clue. I should have known. Babes, what's wrong? And I told you, you know, this man's the shift was awful.
And that's like, actually, what does it look like?
And what does it look like, babes? Hold on, let me get you a drink. What does
you
it
don't
look
understand?
like?
I'm wrecking. I'm like,
I'm
in
my head, right, thinking, he cares. No, this man is literally planning and strategizing what's gonna happen. What is how many like is this guy? Describe the guy. We're not gonna do that now, but we describe the guy, and you know, when are you next at work? Saturday or something like that. Why is it on Saturday afternoon? I've been in there probably a couple of hours, and Saturday afternoon you walk in, kiss me on my cheek. How are you doing, darling? I'm great. What are you doing here? You know, it's the chef here. And I'm like, yeah, why? What a wally. Like, in my head, I should have known, but I didn't know, because I didn't know that's what you were capable of.
And obviously,
because you never showed me that side, and you were genuinely playing
nice
me and being kind and listening. And
I'm like that, but you don't understand there's rage boiling inside of me.
All I can hear in the kitchen is, whole heap of things smashing up. And you walked out with your hood up and said, I'll call you later. I'll call you later. So I'm like, what? When I seen the guy's face, his nose on the other side of his face, and there's blood everywhere.
I'm so sorry.
They call
I'm
the
so
police and everything, and I'm like, oh my God, who are you? Actually said to the manager, she's like, she asked me, did I call you to come down there and do this thing? And I was
And
like,
you know what's
no.
so hard? It's like, even
Nowadays, I'd have been in problems.
And when you start about that story, I actually feel sick. It doesn't make me feel good at all. It's like, it's really embarrassing. Like, to think like, why are you behaving like this?
I said it to you, but I don't think you got it.
Yeah, where is this need to try and feel like I need to? You don't need protecting. Like, I didn't need to do that.
No.
I could have let it slide. And you know, there's so many men that's out there that's like, they won't let things slide because they see it as a disrespect, especially when it comes to family. And I think it's like, when I think back now and I think about things like that and incidents like that, I'm just like, it's not worth it, man. And it's like, that's not actually manhood. I actually thought that made me a man.
No,
this is what a man does to protect his girlfriend.
It made
but
you.
It's just wrong indoctrination.
And also, it kind of, when I remember saying to you, why did you do that? Why did you feel the need to come down there and do something like that? So I didn't ask you to do that. You were listening to me, taking everything I was saying and use it for your own gain, because that was about you. Yeah. That wasn't about me. I had it covered.
It all goes back to this self-value, self-worth,
self-confidence.
Because I believe once you get to know who you are and you're secure in your identity and of who you are, whose you are, I don't feel like you need to prove yourself to people, because you're satisfied, you're content. But when you're not there and you're still kind of trying to fight and you're trying to prove yourself in the world or prove yourself with people, you do things that are irrational or erratic and that don't make sense.
With being around you, like, I never see all that stuff that you talked about in terms of how you felt about yourself. I never, like, ever would have guessed that's how you felt. For me, you was just like, this guy with so much energy and so much fun and so gentle and kind and caring, and had this,
well, in there,
you know, had this amazing ability to listen. I know it's gonna just ping, hat, glasses, everything. It's just, no, but I felt like you listened to me. I always felt heard. So you would always ask me, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go, babes? What do you want to do today? But you phone me up, say to my mum, hello, darling, can I speak to my darling, please? And that's how you talk about me. Like, I never had that, ever. And
let me explain that to you then.
That felt amazing.
You drew that out of me.
I did?
Yes. Because I can articulate now that you have grace. There was something different about you, so that how you maneuvered, how you operated, like commanded respect.
Yes, that's right.
And I love that. I think that's important to understand. Like, there's something about you and how you carried yourself that I didn't see it as, like, back in the day we'd call certain demographics of girls chicken heads.
Okay.
Yeah, you wasn't a chicken head.
Oh, goodness
girls
me.
Girls are just like, you know, like a chicken that just was like got wings but can't fly. Like, there was, like, man, them would just call them chicken head. You wasn't a chicken head.
Thank God.
And we had to, you had to come to you differently. Is that making sense?
Yeah.
I think this generation calls it, you wasn't like a beat and delete.
Oh my God. I'm finished. Is that a thing? Do people say that today?
Yeah. Wow, you used to say beat and delete.
Beat and delete, really.
So that I didn't see you like that.
I'm really glad to know that.
Yeah, I didn't see you as a beat and delete.
Not a beat and delete fam. Nah. Okay. That's good. Well,
obviously our daughter talks about it now, that she identifies behaviors in her generation, and she talks about the fact that, like, when the mom and dad are not together, she goes, Dad, there's a difference. It seems like she said last time I took T out for dinner, she was telling me that, like, Dad, I just see so many young girls just doing all these things with boys because I feel like they're trying to find love. And I'm like, really? And you can identify that.
Here's the thing. So when I met you and fell pregnant, so after a while, so it's like, 2 years of knowing you, that's what people said about me. They said, she's with this bad boy because she's feeling rejected from her dad.
Okay.
And she's looking for love in all the wrong places. But I didn't look at you and think you was wrong or in all the wrong places. I didn't see as much as I knew some of the things that you were getting up to. I didn't know the whole thing, and I still had my own ideas about where I wanted to go in life and what I wanted to do. It's just that that's what happened at that time. But I do think there is that narrative that, you know, and I wasn't coming from a single parent home. I was coming from two people that were married for a long time. And then it didn't work out, and things are sort of all happened at the same time. But I can't lean into that, and I don't believe that me meeting you or me even being attracted to you or falling in love with you is because I felt rejected by my dad. I feel like, no, I fell in love with you because I fell in love with you. Genuinely, I don't think I've had low self-esteem, but not in terms of stuff happening with my family, my parents. I think it's come from other things that have happened. I think I've always loved who I am. And I think when you do that, when you know who you are, it's easier for you to stay focused on what it is God got for you.
And it kind of leads into like proposing to you.
Oh my goodness me.
So I've gone to America with my mom.
Yeah.
I decided to take a book with me called He Emotions, written by T.D. Jakes. And that book starts to tell me about husband and wives and starts to deal with masculinity. And it talks about inside every kid, there's a king. If I'm being totally honest, when I was going to Florida, it was my first time going to America. And America for me was like the epicenter of bumpers. And I'm talking about bumpers like girls, because I was watching.
I knew what you meant.
I'm talking about MTV.
No one says that, the epicenter of bumpers.
Yeah, this is where it was created. This is where the money, like
this is bumper manufacturer.
I was going to the lab.
I'm finished.
Because you understand, I'm growing up on MTV Cribs, Yo Raps. I'm watching hip hop videos.
You had never been before?
Never been before, and I'm seeing American girls, and I think they call it twerking now. They were shaking their bumpers on the Miami beaches, and I was like, I'm going to go to America, and I'm going to rain thunder and lightning down. That was my plan.
Oh dear.
But I got there, and all I could think about was you. I was missing you so much. I was reading the book, thinking about you, and I got to the end of the book, and I said to myself, I want to get married. I want to marry you. And I said to my mom, I begged my mom, and I says, Mom, I want to get married to Sabrina. She's like, hey. I says, Mom, can you do me a favor? Can we, while we're in America and the exchange rate's better, could we buy an engagement ring? My mom says, no, me not have that money. Me not have the money. That's Caribbean for I don't have the money. And long story short, I persuaded my mom, and my mom actually used her credit card. And I said, Mom, I promise you, when we get back, I'm going to make the money and pay you back, and I'll do it fast. You know me, Mom, I'm good for it. And Mom said, okay. So we started to go to jewelry shops, found the engagement ring, and I bought it. And I came back and told Bishop about it, Bishop Brooks. And yeah, I proposed to you during the church service as a surprise. I
was still at Rain, Thunder and Hair Thunder in America because it was the epicenter of bumper. Sorry, that's where I am. Bumper epicenter, but that...
You gotta keep it real, man. This is between the sheets.
Nah, because you know that's funny. That is so funny that you went there with that mindset and got slapped up
yeah.
so hard by the book. Because I know that you shared that book with me and you actually told me to read it, and I did read it, and it is a powerful resource, really, tool for men and women. I think women should read the book. Actually, I think every woman should read it. There were so many things that happened before we got engaged. I can remember because we got baptized. Yeah. And then and we was already together before we got baptized, and then it was like, oh, well, now you're baptized and you're Christians, you can't really be living a secular life.
Yeah, so you can't have sex.
You can't have sex. You gotta sacrifice your relationship, really put it on hold and give your whole self to God. And that's what we did.
Yeah.
And we had already had Tamina then, so it was like, I'm living with Tamina, you're living at your mom's.
That was a hard thing, man. But that was I think that was like a deep conviction and love for God, really, because obviously, I love you, I love God, and
Who do you love more?
that's where it came down to, and it's like I really want to. I don't think I loved God more at the time, but I was getting to love Him, kind of thing, if I'll be honest. But I wanted to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And when I read Sexual Integrity, and it talked about how we could live a lifestyle whereby we almost could like reclaim our virginity. We'll never ever be virgins again.
Yeah.
But we could live a life of purity for a period of time before we get married. That was attractive to me, because I'm very aware, and I can use the words acutely aware now, but I wouldn't say it like that back then. But I was aware of where I'm coming from. I'm aware of my dad's challenges. I'm aware of the culture I'm from, where, you know, multiple relationships. And I knew that it would take something deeper and more powerful than myself to be able to really start a family, start a life with you, and make it really last. And I wanted to try and do things in the right way of what I was learning from the books I was reading, Sexual Integrity, He Emotions, and obviously the Bible as well. I was reading. And that's what just attracted me to marriage, because like marriage seems like the institution that brings a kind of like godly protection over
safety.
Yeah, safety. I always seen it as like a triangle.
Yeah.
Where it's like God at the top, father, and I mean man and woman at the bottom. It was like a triangle. And I could see that triangle almost being like a roof of protection over our children. So that's what was inspiring me and motivating me to kind of go down this route of purity, not touch, even though I wanted to touch you, and I was hot like fire, and my heart's racing, and I'm like, God, just cool. I'm trying to do things the right thing.
Yeah. And I guess so, because that's what it was. I mean, that day of going to church, I never forget it, because I didn't have my. It's very important that our nails are done, ladies. My nails weren't done. One popped off. I was just like, it was one of those days where you're just dragging yourself, like, get to church. And I dressed nice. I always try and make an effort, dress Tamina nice. And we went to church. And obviously I met you there because we wasn't living together. So I came by with me and Tamina, and then you came with your mom. And you'd have come in this whole suit. I never forget it, because you had on a proper like pinstripe suit.
I forgot that, you know.
Wow. Yeah, you had on a pinstripe suit.
When I'm about to get engaged.
Full attire, and I'm not. And I remember Bishop came out of his office, as he does, you know, with so much gravitas. He enters Bishop Brooks, and he stood there and he's like, yes, and this man has come, and he said that he wants to, you know, make an honest woman out of his lady or something like that. And
he started to do some
lyrics. He's talking all these long words, and everybody's looking around, and someone's pointing at me, and I'm like, what are you on about? We're not getting married. Like, we're not there. You're doing poker face. And he's like, but you did stand up, and he's like, so would the person stand up? You stood up, and I'm like, sit down, because
like you said, would a man reveal himself by standing up?
By standing up.
I stood up, and you're like trying to drag me.
I'm like, what are you sit down, for? Stop messing about, because you would be a prankster like that, and you would just do that. But then he didn't sit down. He went to the front, and I'm like, oh my God, everything's upside down in my head.
Like a baby.
I did. I had to. Oh my God. That's not the definition of barling.
I know you're doing this with your mouth.
I was holding my mouth, my hands over my mouth, holding onto the radiator, and my belly was doing somersaults.
I was like, what have I done? When he's like this,
and I was like, yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but I said yes. Long story, very long story short.
Yeah. And then we went through that journey. So I think one of the most critical things in our engagement was the time when I've kind of like called you and I said, Spoon, I need to speak to you. And I confessed everything to you. And I said to you that, look, this is the people that I've slept with. I confessed that when you was pregnant, I cheated on you. And I said some real hard things. And I remember just being terrified to tell you these things. But in my head, I was like, I don't want to go down the aisle and get married and not be honest with you. And I knew that it was a conversation that was so risky because I was so transparent and honest. But I just wanted to kind of like clean slate, you know, Like, how was that for you? Because I know how I felt about it, and I thought, and I'll be honest, up to this day, I couldn't believe how you handled that. I thought it was amazing. But like, how was it for you?
I actually thought before you, because I remember the phone call. I remember we sat in on the dining table in the flat that we lived in Great Bar at the time. I remember you saying you wanted to talk to me, and I actually thought at that point, okay, this is when he's realized that he doesn't want to get married, or he doesn't want to. He doesn't want to do this. Like, this is he's thinking he doesn't want this, really. Like, he's realized what it is and he doesn't want to do it. That's what I thought. I actually thought he was gonna say, I don't think this is for me, kind of thing. I didn't know if he was gonna say I'm not for you, but I just didn't know if he wanted to go ahead with the whole marriage thing. So I had that in the back of my mind, and and then it didn't go that way. It went to the complete opposite. Well, kind of could have gone that way. Like, you could have said I don't want to get married after spilling all of the tea, literally emptying out everything, all the skeletons out the closet. But actually what I felt, I mean, you told me obviously I can't divulge the content of that conversation, but what you shared was more than relationships and things like that. There was some significant trauma that you'd had, some horrible experiences that you'd had. I think we both cried. Like, I can remember crying. I can remember you crying. I can remember being very, 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 like, sad for you that you had such a low sense of self. And I can say that now, knowing that's how I felt then. Like, I could not believe, because to me, this beautiful character, like, how could you feel like this? Why would you have done all of these things? I never saw it as you was doing it because you wanted to be like nasty, malicious, or I felt a lot of the time that you was lost. And it's not like it was taking pity on you. It wasn't that. It was, I think, if anything, I knew at that point that I trusted you.
In my head, I was like, I know that this conversation can go two ways. It's either gonna bring us closer or it's over.
It brought us closer.
But I was willing to pay that price, because in my head, what I was always in the back of my head as well was that I didn't want no female in particular, like no female, to be able to kind of like, when we're together, you know, like be around you and like smile,
like
smile, and I think, yeah, I've slept with you, man. Like, now, every woman, you need to understand, if you have slept with me, Serena knows, because that yes, your name, not when, but
I don't
your
need
name.
to know when.
And I thought that was important, because I just didn't want no one to have anything over you, because you're my queen and you're the number one. That moment, I think, is probably one of the top reasons why our marriage is going the way it is, which is, I think we have a phenomenal marriage. I think the foundation is like really right in how we built it, because we didn't leave any stone unturned. And that's what I believe we're now starting to see, the fruit and the manifestation of stuff that we're seeing, because of how we started the building, and like what we've uncovered through this sheet around marriage is the importance of preparation, the importance of not rushing the process. I think too many people are trying to force ripe the fruit, and are trying to have things before their time. They're trying to just get engaged. Like, I'm so scared for this generation, because I'm seeing them just like putting so much money into the engagement proposal, and
they've got drone videos and all sorts, candles, roses everywhere. Like, it's beautiful, don't get me wrong, it's lovely, but
that's not where you need to invest. You need to invest in the books.
And also, how do you follow on from that? You know what I mean? Like, that's, you set the bar super duper high. And I just want to add though, that I know that conversation was a two-way street. So you told me things, and you asked me, and I could share what I needed to say, or talk about past experiences and how things had felt in the past with, with other relationships. So it wasn't like you was just telling me everything and I was just sweeping it all up, and that was it. It was like don't want it to seem like it was just like a one-way thing, because people were like, well, so what, didn't Sabrina have anything to say? Doesn't Sabrina have a history or anything? Granted, my history is not as colourful as yours, but I still had past relationships.
You don't have the rainbow like me. Only joking.
You said it.
But I think
I didn't have all of that, but I still had stuff that I needed to share.
I really just want people to like really invest quality time in the preparation stage, and like not making rash decisions based on temporary feelings, but really think through your decisions. Go through premarital counseling.
Yeah.
Read books.
Open up every door. And you've got to think about all the places in your heart where you put things and you try to push it to the back, because it always comes out in the forefront.
Lies always will. You might think you're getting away with
You're
it,
not.
but in the spirit and in emotions, that thing will come back to bite you in different ways. We do have an adversary, and I know not everyone comes from like a spiritual perspective or a Christian philosophy, but it's about ultimately not giving anything or anybody permission to come and accuse you of anything in terms of your relationship. So I would really talk about honesty is the best policy. It's a hard policy. It's not easy. But for those who are in relationships and really want their things to work, like if you're living a facade, if you're really cheating on your partner and you're not being honest about how you feel, just understand that ultimately it doesn't matter how much times you go to the fancy restaurants, how much gifts you buy, you're almost like building on quicksand.
Yeah.
And before you know it, it's just going to sink. And make sure you're building. Just like the story of the 3 little pigs. One had bricks, one had straw, and the other had wood. Like, make sure you're using the right materials when you're building. Because when the storms of life happen, and we've been through some storms,
I'm pretty sure we'll get to them.
Yeah,
we?
We've been through some storms. And we're still standing.
Things have happened that you wouldn't imagine or dream of, and you really have to know that you can trust the person that you're choosing to spend the rest of your life with.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you really need to know that they have your heart and that they're fully.
What would you say, just out of interest, quickly, is one of the key storms that you think you've been through in marriage, especially in the early days, 0 to 3 years?
0 to 3 years, I would probably say navigating, I guess it's a combination of a few things. So it's two of us coming together, living together, you wanting to do your almost old life, and yet we're in a new world of road. So like you still wanted, not road, let's say that's a wrong way to say it, but it's like you want it to be social. Not to say you can't be social, gosh, get this very clear, Sabrina, but you want it to be out all the time, like clubbing, socializing in certain, environments. Clubbing. Yeah, like you want to go out, you want to go to a rave on a Saturday, probably a Friday. You struggled hard with that. And at the same time, you've got this new Christian life you're trying to live. And at the same time as that, we're just having another child. So there's 2 kids. And all at the same time, we're in a very small apartment, like a 1-bedroom apartment in Birmingham. You're just launching this business that's starting to make money. Over here, you're doing that. Over here, you're in church, and it's like you're the guy that's just done bad guy turn good, come to the Lord, all of that stuff. But at the same time, you're having your own internal struggles in terms of socially, being out there, understanding your identity now as a man that's married, he's a Christian, all of that stuff. That season was hard.
Okay.
Because it was like you're trying to balance so many different. I was trying to figure out what is going on. Like, what did we sign? This is not what we signed up for.
So I think that's a good segue to the next episode, talking about the storms and the challenges that you've been through.
We need a duff. This has been the Between the Sheets podcast with
Nathan
and Sabrina Dennis.
Please go and follow us on Instagram at Nathan and Sabrina, and go onto our YouTube channel, Nathan and Sabrina. Like, subscribe, share. We want this to go everywhere. Between the Sheets.